It was a chilly October evening when my 3 closest friends and I decided to have a sleepover at my old, creaky Victorian house. Sarah, Mark, and Emily had been my confidants since childhood, and we cherished these gatherings as a way to escape the stresses of adulthood. As the night wore on, we settled into a cozy circle in the living room. The rain tapped rhythmically on the windows, adding to the eerie ambience. We were sipping hot cocoa and sharing ghost stories, each one trying to outdo the other in terror. Suddenly, the shrill ring of my landline phone pierced the room's stillness. We all jumped, the sudden intrusion sending shivers down our spines. The phone hadn't rung in years. It had become more of a decoration than a functional device. "Who on earth could that be?" Sarah said, her voice quivering. I reluctantly picked up the receiver. The caller ID displayed nothing but unknown number. A lump formed in my throat as I answered. "Hello?" A deep, chilling voice replied, "I know your secrets, all of you." My heart raced as dread washed over me. "Who is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "You'll find out soon enough," the voice replied, oozing malevolence. "But first, I want you to do something for me." "What do you want?" Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Step outside the house," the voice commanded. "Leave the warmth of your shelter and face the darkness." We exchanged nervous glances. The voice seemed to know us intimately, and fear gnawed at the edges of our minds. "Why should we listen to you?" Mark challenged, his voice defiant. The voice on the other end chuckled, sending shivers down our spines. "Because, Mark, I know about your gambling debt, Emily's affair, Sarah's stolen inheritance, and the terrible secret our host has been keeping." My heart sank. How could this stranger possibly know our darkest secrets? "We don't have much time," the voice continued. "Step outside now." We hesitated, our minds racing. What kind of danger were we in? But the fear of our secrets being exposed was a more immediate threat. Reluctantly, we left the safety of the house and ventured into the rain-soaked darkness. The cold, wet ground squelched beneath our feet as we clung to one another.
After what felt like an eternity, the voice on the phone spoke again. "Good. Now go back inside." With a sigh of relief, we turned back toward the house, only to find that the phone call had ended. The dread remained, and we hurried inside, locking all the doors and windows. We never discovered the identity of the mysterious caller, nor did they ever reveal our secrets. But that night we learned that our past actions had a way of catching up with us, even in the most terrifying and inexplicable ways. And we were left with a chilling reminder that some secrets are best left buried in the darkness.
It was a cold winter evening, and my best friend Sarah and I were home alone. Our parents had gone out of town for a weekend getaway, leaving us in charge of the house. We were both 15 years old, and the idea of having the house to ourselves for a couple of days was exciting, to say the least. We decided to make the most of our newfound freedom. We ordered pizza, stocked up on snacks, and picked out some scary movies to watch. As darkness fell, we settled in on the living room couch with blankets and popcorn, ready for a night of horror and fun. Around midnight, the wind outside began to howl, and the trees rustled ominously. Sarah and I were already spooked from the movies, and the eerie atmosphere outside didn't help. Just as we were trying to shake off our unease, we heard it, a faint tapping on the living room window. I looked at Sarah, my heart pounding in my chest. "Did you hear that?" She nodded, her wide eyes locked on the window. "Maybe it's just a tree branch or something." I tried to convince myself that it was nothing, but the tapping grew louder, more deliberate. It was as if someone was trying to get our attention. Suddenly, a chill ran down my spine as I saw a shadowy figure move outside the window. Panic welled up inside me as I realized that someone was out there, trying to break in. I motioned for Sarah to be quiet and grabbed my phone, dialing 911 as quietly as I could. With the operator on the line, I whispered the situation, and she assured me that the police were on their way. Meanwhile, Sarah and I huddled in a corner of the living room, clutching each other and praying for the police to arrive quickly. The intruder outside didn't give up easily. For what felt like an eternity, we heard him fumbling with the lock on the front door, trying to force it open. Sarah and I tried to stay as silent as possible, tears streaming down our faces as we listened to the terrifying sounds of someone trying to invade our home. 2.5 agonizing hours passed. We could hear the intruder's frustrated mutterings as he struggled with the door. Finally, just when it seemed like he might break in, we heard the distant wailing of sirens. Relief washed over us as the police arrived, and the intruder fled into the night. The police searched the area, but couldn't find the would-be intruder. They assured us that they would patrol the neighborhood throughout the night and recommended we stay with a neighbor for safety. We gladly accepted the offer and spent the rest of the night at a neighbor's house, too shaken to return home. To this day, I can't shake the feeling of helplessness and fear we experienced that night. We never found out who the intruder was or why they targeted our home, but that night taught us the true meaning of fear and the importance of staying vigilant, even in the safety of our own home. It was a crisp autumn evening when my friends and I decided to have a sleepover at my family's old farmhouse. The house had been in my family for generations and was the perfect setting for a spooky night of stories and laughter. Everything was going well, just like any other sleepover. We had our snacks, our favorite movies, and a warm fire crackling in the living room. The wind outside howled softly, creating an eerie but cozy atmosphere. As the night wore on, we all began to feel the comforting embrace of slumber. One by one, my friends drifted off to sleep on their sleeping bags, scattered across the living room floor. I lay there, listening to the occasional creaks and groans of the old house. It was strangely soothing until I too succumbed to exhaustion. I'm not sure what time it was when I woke up, but the first thing I noticed was that something felt off. I sat up, blinking away the sleep, and tried to adjust my eyes to the dimly lit room. My heart pounded in my chest as I took in the scene before me. The living room was in chaos. The furniture was overturned, cushions were scattered across the floor, and the once warm fire had turned into a pile of cold ashes. Panic set in as I realized that something was terribly wrong. I rushed over to wake my friends, shaking them frantically. "Guys, wake up! Something's happened!" I whispered, my voice trembling. They stirred and slowly rose, their eyes filled with confusion and sleep. As they took in the scene, their faces twisted in disbelief and fear. We were all horrified as we realized the extent of the destruction. We decided to investigate the rest of the house. Every room we entered was in shambles. Our belongings were gone, our valuable possessions stolen. The kitchen was a disaster, with shattered dishes and spilled food strewn about. It was as if a tornado had torn through our peaceful sleepover. But what terrified us the most was the eerie silence that had settled over the house. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows or doors. It was as if whoever or whatever had done this had vanished without a trace. Fear gnawed at us as we huddled together in the center of the ruined living room. We knew we had to call the police, but we were too afraid to stay in the house any longer. With trembling hands, we grabbed our cell phones and rushed outside. To arrive, we couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent had invaded our sleepover. We were left with unanswered questions and a sense of unease that would haunt us for the rest of our lives. To this day, none of us can explain what happened that night in the old farmhouse, and we're not sure we want to know. The mystery of the destroyed sleepover still lingers in our minds, a chilling reminder that even in the most familiar and comforting places, darkness can descend when you least expect it.